Welcome to This Week in Parliament. I'm Joshua Hinkson. As always, thanks for joining us. Now, the estimates presentation setting out the revenue and expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024 continued on Wednesday, the 22nd of February, with officials from the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs providing an update on the accomplishments made in the provision of social services for this financial year, as well as plans for the upcoming period, including that of the amalgamation of the National Assistance Board, the Welfare Department, the Child Care Board, and the National Disabilities Unit. We look at the Ministry's presentation in the House of Assembly and focus our attention on the submissions made regarding the intended transformation to the treatment of individuals with disabilities and their ability to access critical services.
We worked with the Law Reform Commission, as you know, to be able to draft the legislation. So the legislation for persons with disabilities in draft. In fact, when I became minister, I had seen a draft legislation, but that was in relation to the convention, more specifically. And I did not think it had addressed the wider issues of persons with disabilities. And so we made an agreement to go back to the drawing board and to draw up a piece of legislation that was fit for purpose and more relevant to the needs of persons with disabilities in Barbados, and that is what we've done. So we have the draft legislation. It is very, very comprehensive. I believe that I will be in a position to bring both the draft legislation and the policy to Cabinet next month, surely in March, once I've received the final, from your committee, once I've received the final documentation. But I believe before the end of March, we'll have that before Cabinet. And once Cabinet approves, then the conversation begins with the CPC. And I'm very optimistic that before September, but surely by the end of this calendar year, we would have in place, or at least laid in Parliament, but hopefully debated and passed, legislation that will improve the lives of persons with disabilities. This has, as you said, this has been too long in coming. There are simple things that people with disabilities need that this country does not offer. And I would add, before I pass over to the director of the National Disabilities Unit, I would add that the one thing that this country needs most of all is not even the legislation. It is not even the policy. It is this mindset shift. It is the way Barbadians, regrettably, are treating persons with disabilities in a way that in many cases it is shameful, it is embarrassing in many cases, and maybe some of it is cruelty, yes, and some of it is just a lack of information. And that is why we've asked the Disabilities Unit to increase the PR, have larger public education programs, but also to start that conversation in schools as part of their curricula, so that people start feeling this thing almost naturally, and it's not a fight when you're fighting against a person who's in their 20s. So that is the work, and this mindset change, to get that right, so that we start treating to persons with disabilities and creating a society that is more equitable, even if not equal, but certainly more equitable, and give people access and opportunity. In relation to the National Disabilities Unit, again, we've already committed that 10% of government housing will be for persons with disabilities. We're looking at, in the legislation, having greater affirmative action to employ people with disabilities as well.
But as it relates to the work of the National Disabilities Unit and what we would have achieved over the past year, we are cognizant of the fact that there are a number of issues that plague persons with disabilities, and we have sought to address those as time progressed. Specifically, we will look at one of the major issues, which is employment, and we would have had a number of initiatives to address this particular issue. Namely, we would have had entrepreneurial markets where persons would be able to showcase their goods and services to the public in order to increase their marketability. We would have had symposiums to train them in entrepreneurship. And we are also looking to have persons with disabilities engage in employment through advocacy and through working with some of our affiliate organizations like the Barbados Council for the Disabled. In addition to that, we also sought to look at some of the other issues like transportation. We would have purchased 2 buses, and before I left the office this morning, we were in contact with Courtesy Garage with the view to supplying one other bus. I call them buses, but they're really Nissan Air vans, which are ZR-type vehicles. What we seek to do basically is to transport persons with disabilities to their medical appointments. And We are restrained to that particular service because we recognize that in spite of the other transportation needs of persons with disabilities to attend recreational events, educational institutions, etc., we see that the medical appointment attendance is the priority for persons with disabilities. In addition to that, we would have also, as we do traditionally, create the supportive environment for persons with disabilities, like building ramps, providing prostheses, crutches, bathroom adjustments, etc. What we all seek to do, given the tremendous amount of work that we do, that we are required to do, we recognize that it can't all be done by the National Disabilities Unit. And what we seek to do, government through the ministry have been able to improve or to increase the grant to organizations representing the interests of persons with disabilities by 40% across the board. Not that one organization gets 40% increase, but across the board, it's a total of 40%. Those are some of the initiatives that we have undertaken, and some of the achievements that we would have had is that we were able, in this financial year, to allocate 4 parking spaces for persons with disabilities in Bridgetown, near and about Broad Street. We were able to start for the first time, provide orthopedic braces to children. The orthopedic person at the QEH had indicated to us that she had a long waiting list for these persons for this particular service. These are persons, normally children, who have spinal issues and who were without the service of getting the corrective procedures or the corrective aid in order for them to develop physically. We have recently been able to add an assisted living program for persons with developmental challenges, and sometimes their parents may have died, they would have been getting old chronologically, having reached the age of 18, and without the skills, the daily living skills to function independently, we have been able to engage the services of an occupational therapist so that we teach them how to function within a sheltered environment, within the home particularly, and acquire the skills so that they can become independent and not become homeless. So that's just a snapshot basically of what we have been able to achieve over the past year.
In terms of our plans going forward, we have a very exciting project which hopes to eliminate the barrier of communication between persons who are deaf and hard of hearing and the wider population. This is a video relay project. In this project, what will happen basically is that persons who are deaf or hard of hearing, when they approach a government office, let's say the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, the police, the polyclinics, they will be able to use their cell phone to contact an interpreter, a sign language interpreter, to communicate with the reception at these institutions through a video call. And that receptionist will be able to understand through the interpreter what business this deaf or hard of hearing person is about and seek to assist them in that regard. We think that this is a very innovative project and therefore will assist greatly with the communication between the deaf and hard of hearing and the general population. In addition to that, we are cognizant of the fact of the high unemployment between persons with disabilities and in comparison with the general population. So we are focusing on the whole employment aspect of their lives. And we want to launch a wheelchair project. And the reason is twofold, basically. As it stands right now, there are not many persons who repair wheelchairs. And therefore, persons have to discard of their wheelchairs because of some very minor issues. And secondly, it would help reduce the need to replace wheelchairs, and it would also provide employment for some person. Hopefully, we would like to train a person with a disability to undertake this work. And we hope to have this project started sometime in the new financial year. This is after April in 2023. Another project we also want to start persons with disabilities into small engine repair. We know that there are a lot of wheel whackers and other small engine tools over there, blowers, lawnmowers, etc. If we can get persons involved in this particular skill, then we will be able to engage them in some income generating activity. In addition to that, we have an agricultural project that we hope to enter into with the Barbados Workers Union at Margot St. Philip, where we will train persons who are intellectually challenged in the field of agriculture, namely in the cultivation of food crops, and also horticulture for the cultivation of flowers so that they can sell on the open market. So these are some of the opportunities that we hope to present to persons with disabilities to assist them in earning an income and increase their independence. It is sad that we as a society, when I say we, I don't mean everybody, but a significant portion of our society still look at persons with disabilities as people who are less able than who they really are. And what we hope to do in the coming period is also launch a massive sensitization campaign so that persons will see the need to treat persons with disabilities with dignity, provide opportunities for them, and basically integrate them into the mainstream society. It is unfortunate that there are some of us who still think that persons with disabilities are less of a person, but that is a mindset that we hope to change through our initiatives, through the types of interventions with the public, and through an intensive public relations campaign.
So, sir, in closing, I believe that the work of the ministry has been extremely comprehensive. The nature of the transformation, as you can tell, sir, is advanced. The relationship to people, sir, has never been tighter. We've become a lot more people-focused, sir. We're working closer with our partners, so we're also partner-oriented. So the organizations dealing with the elderly and persons with disabilities and persons living with HIV or persons who are interested in that space, working closer with them as well. We have a determination that people who come to this ministry are clients. First of all, they're human beings who come to the door as clients of the ministry and therefore should be treated with respect and dignity at all times, sir.
Let's turn our attention now to the estimates presentation by the Ministry of Energy and Business. Among the many plans to promote commerce and increase trade, the ministry has clearly set up in its agenda plans to regularize vending in Barbados. During this financial year 2022-2023, steps have been made in achieving this goal through legislation, all in an effort to further enfranchise and empower workers in a staple sector of Barbadian culture. Ministers Sandra V and Lisa Cummins, as well as the ministry's Chief Business Development Advisor Anderson Cumberbatch, spoke of the plans regarding the construction of vending zones across the island.
One of the things that has been important to us as a government is that as we have grown, we need to bring order to things. And vending is one of the areas in which we recognize that we have to take some steps to be able to create a proper platform for vending, that vending can actually shift from just something to make a few dollars to a career. And one of the things that we've sought to do with vending is to put in place a plan. We have to be able to put vending on a platform that is dignified, that gives people a reasonable living, that allows them to participate meaningfully in the economy, and see before them that if they are successful with their vending, that they can translate to a store, that they can then translate into a chain of stores, that they can think about going out into CARICOM, so that vending then becomes one of the legitimate careers that our young people can aim for. But that can only happen if we start to do the work of laying the foundation for transformation and enabling this particular group. And so we have started in the small business unit, and I'm going to ask Mr. Anderson Cumberbatch to share what is on the table for vendors in Barbados.
I would want to preface my response by referencing no less a person than Professor Hilary Beckles, who said that vending is the mother of all Black economic enfranchisement in Barbados. And so therefore, vending tells a story of not only what was, but what can be for a modern Barbados. Critical to the building out of this national vending policy and the legislation is the whole issue of the national vending zones. And we want to position the vending zones as not only spaces of commerce, but also symbols of hope and opportunity for the disenfranchised. We want to position them as inclusive for all persons, including our senior members of the community and persons living with disabilities, to create family wealth and intergenerational wealth, to provide spaces where decent work can be conducted in a safe and healthy environment for the vendors, for patrons, and for our surrounding communities. And just as important, spaces where vendors will no longer feel ostracized, stigmatized, nor harassed, but have a sense of acceptance by all. So therefore, we are looking to establish 7 vending facilities. These will be located in Redmonds Village, St. Thomas, Warren, St. Michael, Top Rock, Christchurch, Fitzvillage, St. James, Kingsland in Christchurch, in the vicinity of the Life of Barbados Roundabout, and Haggett Hall, St. Michael. A critical part of the legislation as well, as Minister Simmons would have indicated, was the National Vending Committee, and the members of this committee have been constituted. We have also developed the technological platform for the registration of vendors, and this registration facility is going to allow us to both issue the vending licenses and permits, as well as to capture all of the relevant information on the vending sector so that we can properly plan for this sector. Part of the operationalization of the Vending Act as well is to be able to give legal support to government's effort to decriminalize vending in Barbados, to be able to better regulate vending in Barbados in terms of ensuring the personal hygiene and cleanliness of vendors, and to make sure that proper amenities are available to vendors, including waste disposal, public facilities, public toilets, drinking water, and storage, including storage facilities. And as you would have indicated, it also addresses the rights and obligations of vendors, as well as those authorities that will administer vending in Barbados. We will also be looking at vending within the city, and it is our intention to facilitate, establish a number of vending kiosks within the city as part of the wider revitalization plan for the city. And it is our view that vending must have its rightful place as part of any future development of Bridgetown. And so in this regard, we are working with our stakeholders, including Barvin, and we will be liaising with the Barbados Tourism and Investment, Inc. to ensure that these vending kiosks will be fit for purpose and to align with the historic significance of what a revitalized future Bridgetown must represent. So in summary, the Ministry of Energy and Business, and by extension, the small business unit of the ministry, we remain committed to assisting vendors in Barbados in terms of their personal and professional development to help them to grow, to thrive, to create wealth, while giving them the opportunity to contribute to national development.
We spent a lot of time talking about not only about where the zones would be, but we also looked at the rationale for the zones and ensuring that it was able to expedite the process of applying for a license. For example, we've gone through in this country incarnations where on a given annual basis, we could see people in the newspaper or on the television protesting against the fact that they were being removed by the law. This legislation simply removes all of that from happening. And in the course of the legislation, it says, even if there is a challenge with where you are located outside of a vending zone, there is a mechanism by which you can treat to that, and it is not to criminalize people. It is not to cause people to lose their wares. It is not to be able to have people in a position where money that they have spent to acquire goods, especially perishable goods, that they are lost to them. All of those are elements which are contained within the legislation, and the expectation is that with this ministry, in these estimates, in this financial year, that we will begin the construction of several of those vending zones, 3 in the first instance, or rather we will be doing 3 vending zones at a time, and then simultaneously engaging in a communications campaign, a sensitization campaign that brings people alongside and keeps them up to date with what is happening. So those are among the things that we are going to be doing as it pertains to vending.
Now, people are always at the center of society and the country's economy. Given that view, we thought it important to speak with and allow you to hear from those Barbadians who will be impacted by changes to come for vendors in the upcoming financial year. Here is the perspective of the president of Barbados' Association of Retailers, Vendors and Entrepreneurs, Alistair Alexander. We also hear the stories of a number of Barbadian vendors.
We are very pleased to be involved in the Barbados Association of Retailers, Vendors and Entrepreneurs. We are very pleased at the government's approach as far as what I would call grassroots commerce. We are very pleased with their approach. You know, in business, you learn in economics that there must be management. Okay, you have the factors of production in any productive venture. You will have the factors of production, which is land, labor, and capital. But then you have to have management of those things. And the government right now has the approach of being the paramount manager of the country. And really the vulnerable sectors really need that type of management. And government has shown itself to be that type of manager in establishing, even within the context of the vending sector, they have established a vending policy, which would be like a plan, right? Like a business plan, okay? And that that would deal with the infrastructure, right? The infrastructural development that is necessary to carry vending where it needs to go. We recognize that it is important for a country to recognize the diamonds in the rough. You don't pelt rare diamonds, right? And that is the vendors of this country. They are diamonds, they are literal, well, they are diamonds in the rough, okay? And you don't pelt them where. We are saying that together we can polish this sector, bring it to where it is truly valuable, seen or looked at, right, as valuable, okay? Well, we are a prototype. We are a prototype. We probably would be the biggest prototype of what those vendor villages will look like. Okay, we do not expect them to be like here at the Barvin Super Outdoor Market. Okay, we expect them to be a smaller type, right? Okay, coming off the highway. We're talking about taking the coconut vendors. Coconut industry is a big industry, right? And it could be an export industry, right? But it is definitely a big industry. It's connected to tourism. Besides that, all people love coconut water, right? It also, you imagine tourists coming in, and a lot of these people have never actually seen or tasted coconut water, and to see it being actually, you know, cut on the spot and everything, right? Tremendous. It's part of the tourism product.
I've been in vending now for the past 45 years, right? Because from young, my father always taught us. He was a butcher. His name was Conrad Rouse. He was a butcher, and he always told us, look, you work for somebody, yes, but always look to have a business of your own. Don't be working for somebody all your life. You're giving them all of your youth and all of your labor, right? When you can give it to yourself. Do it for yourself. So if you start working for someone, gather knowledge, and open your own business. Vending has been good to me throughout the years. There are times, you have up times and down times, but the Lord never let you go down. He always makes sure that if you go down to a certain level, He always brings you right back up to the top. So I am thankful for vending throughout the years. I always put the Lord first in everything you do, and everything will fall into place. 100%. Yes.
So it's been good to you. Tell me how.
Well, most of what I have achieved has come from vending.
My grandmother was a vendor. That was way back. I assisted her. She had a donkey cart. And I helped her dig potatoes and yams, pick peas in St. Lucie and in St. Peter, you know. She sold in Busby Alley and Cheapside, you know. My entire family was entrepreneur, you could say, because my mother plaited hats and baskets. She was also a new worker. Other members in the family did that too, you know. Yeah, so.
I've been vending all my life. 1981, I leave school and met my husband Rotten and work, and from then to 1982, sorry, and from then to now, I've been doing my thing. I do a little farming Spring Hill and lease. I do a little suitcase trading, and now in this market, and it's been good. It's been good. Well, I got a 32-year-old big daughter, and I got 2 young ones now going to school. So yeah, pay the bills. Pay the bills. Right.
But they have made my job redundant, and I was trying a variety of things, and then one day my mom suggested I try the plants, and I did, and there was no turning back after that.
We certainly hope these vending zones will drive greater economic activity and enfranchisement for our people. So there you have it. A look at the estimates presentations from the Ministries of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, as well as Energy and Business, highlighting plans for the disabled community and vending sectors respectively. With This Week in Parliament, I'm Joshua Hinkson. Thanks for your time.